Hello gamers, here we are. It's the 1st of July 2024 and I finally have got around to acquiring and playing D-Day at Omaha Beach by Decision Games, 5th printing. Here we have the game sealed, ready to open. I'm not going to do an unboxing, I don't do that, but I'm very excited. I've been on holiday, and whilst I was on holiday, I had a copy of the rule book for this game, which I spent a lot of time with my coloured pens annotating in my usual way, which gives me a chance to go through the rules before playing the game and making copious notes in the margins, which I find helps me learn the rules, but also is very, very useful when I'm playing the game because I've got the rule book with lots and lots of notes written in the margin, and that can help summarize the rules and help you look things up very quickly. For the last several years, it seems like now I've been playing games that I've been playing for the first time. So each time I play the game, or the first time in 30 or 40 years, so each time I play the game, it's a learning curve. It's a steep learning curve often. It's not like I'm playing games that I'm familiar with. This one, the rules, I have played D-Day at Peleliu, and the rules here, of course, for D-Day at Omaha Beach are very similar, not the same, but very similar. So a lot of the mechanisms were easy for me to grasp while I was reading through the rules. But I'm not familiar, as I said before, I'm not familiar with the Pacific theatre very much of World War II, but I am rather more familiar with D-Day, Normandy, that sort of thing. So I'm very excited about playing this. It's a purpose-built, solitaire by design game, highly rated. It's D-Day, Omaha Beach. I mean, come on, this should be a big hit for Jeff Preston, the wargamer. So we shall see. I've got high hopes, and I'm about to open this box. And here we are. We are all set up to play D-Day at Omaha Beach by Decision Games, 5th printing. And so this is the initial setup in which the Allied commander has had no decisions at this point. These are just fixed positions that we start off with. We've got the I think they were called Donald Duck, weren't they? The tanks, Donald Duck units, near as I can remember, the amphibious tank units with their skirts. There, 8 in total, 4 for each division. On this side we have the 1st Infantry, on this side we have the 29th Infantry divisions, and then in here we have the Widerstandsnests, which are populated by that chap. Looks like he's it's not terribly important, but that is actually upside down. There we go. So for example, Widerstandsnest 64, right there. And the stacking indicates that underneath the unit is a depth marker, which, as I recall, is a measure of not only forces present, but also their readiness, their sort of alert state. And some of them, as we can see moving in here, some of them, like that's 75 millimeter artillery piece there, 88 millimeter, 75. These are just infantry. And of course they are inverted, so we don't know which strength ones are where. And the same goes for the depth markers. It's underneath them, so that would mean that, and they are randomly drawn, as it were. So each game would be different. Slight variations in strength and readiness and all that sort of thing. And so when we get started with the first turn, we're going to have, if we go up here, we can see the forces as they're going to come on. And this is the time record track up here. And we can see that down here on the first turn, we have, actually can't remember which division is which up here, but so as I said, we've got the 29th and we've got the 1st, and well, actually we could see that if we zoom in, I suppose. We could go the lighter green color says, well, that's a CH2, so that's going to be over here. So that's, I don't know if it's Charlie Hotel, but that's CH2, Charlie H2. Let's guess it's hotel for now. So that means that the lighter green colors, colored units are the 29th, and the darker green are the 1st. I will say this, that the difference in the tone of green seems to come out quite nicely on the video camera, but with the naked eye, it's pretty difficult sometimes to tell the difference in the shade of green there. Anyway, so that lot there is going to come on the first turn. Apparently nothing on the second turn, and then that big stack there on the third turn, and so forth and so on. Right. And I've decided to play not the shortest, easiest version of the thing. I'm going to play it all the way up to the end, but not using all of the rules, but using basically most of the rules. Yes, right, so let's get cooking. Okay, so here we are at the end of turn 2, which was the 0630 hours turn, and we can see, let's see, not much going on with the German positions. Let's tidy that chap up there. The only thing that's happened to them so far has been there was, I think it was Widerstandsnest. Let's see here. Yeah, 65 here was disrupted by incoming fire from the Donald Duck tanks. And although maybe it wasn't that one, maybe it was this one here actually. Yeah, Widerstandsnest 62 Nord, vielleicht, perhaps. Yeah, because somebody shot at it and disrupted it. That disruption's gone now. Tidy. This is becoming obsessively compulsive. Yeah, beyond that, let's see, what else have we got? We've got 1st Division has lost this tank unit here. 29th Division has lost this tank unit here. And some of the counters are flipped over, meaning that they've lost one step. We've got obstacles have been cleared here. Obstacles have been cleared there by engineers. There are no engineer counters doing the clearing. It's just sort of factored into the system that you can clear a certain number each turn under the right circumstances of the particular hexagons, what they are. Let's see, we've got coming on here in the landing boxes, we've got more amphibious tanks coming on. And then we've got infantry. They've made some preservation moves to get themselves into a more protective position. So we had these chaps, or rather these guys, coming from here. Now they've moved up to there. That's about the same sort of level of danger there, but there it's certainly safer. And then we've had here, you get 2 actions per division. So in this division here, one of the actions that was taken up was moving this unit, which was here, moving it to here. And then a free action as a preservation move was used to move it to there, for example. But in terms of attacks against the Germans, there's only been that one result there. There have been 2 other attacks from the tanks, but they didn't produce any results. Yes, there have certainly been losses against the I'm tempted to say allies, but it's not, is it? It's the Americans. So we can see that losses have been taken. Let's see, in terms of well, if we go for units in general, we go 1 and 2 and 3. where losses have been taken, 4 and 5, and I believe both of those 6, 7 have been flipped over one step, and then these have effectively been flipped over. Well, they're eliminated. So that's the story so far. And now we go on to turn 3. Nothing else going on across the board. Now we go on to turn 3. Okay, good progress is being made. We've finished turn 4. We're ready to start turn 5, which is, what would that be? That would be 7:15 a.m. 07:15 hours. So the losses remain. The losses that have been put into these boxes remain the same. Yes, the Americans have lost steps in several places, but only one step, as it were, has been lost at maximum of the units that have suffered casualties. They suffer another step. Obviously, their counter will end up in here, and they'll be replaced by a lower value counter if they have that many steps. I suppose if a tank unit, for example, yes, if a tank unit takes 2 hits, and this one here has had 1 step reduction, as we can see, and it's got 1 step left, so they don't get replaced with a lower value counter, but the infantry units do. The guys have been moving across the beach, and they've been getting right up to the shingle and the seawall, and tried to delicately, as far as possible, stay out of. I think they've managed to stay out of intensive fire. We've had some interesting flavour with the random vents. We've had both these 2 Widerstandsnesten up here. I don't know if it's Nesten or Nester. Anyway, plural. Smoke obscures the view, so that was handy up there to in this particular turn. I should look at the rules, because I should probably remove those counters. I'll have to check when I should have removed those counters. Probably at the end of the turn, I would think. I'll check on that. The Rangers here have had a lot of trouble trying to get up the cliff there, because they keep on being disrupted by incoming fire. They haven't taken any losses, but they keep getting disrupted by the incoming fire, and that stops them from doing anything other than sitting around and then removing their disruption marker at the end of the turn. So yeah, that's what's going on there. So we've got infantry, got lots of tanks floating around, or rather hanging back, because the reason they're hanging back is because they've got ranged weapons, so they don't have to close to the enemy in order to be able to engage with them. And it's also far more important to use the action points on the infantry to get them doing useful things. The infantry movement has been largely through free moves due to self-preservation moves. Right, what else? Any other particularly interesting developments? Let's see. Well, we've got General Cota coming on in the next turn, so I mean, it'd be nice to have some sort of command and control going on here, so we can move more than 2 units per division per turn, which is rather slow unless you're doing a self-preservation move. Anyway, and no casualties on the Germans. No, the tanks have fired a few rounds, which have bounced off a few, what are they called, barrage actions. No infantry attacks yet. They've got close to the targets, as we can see in this instance here, also here now. I think, let's see, I think perhaps they were there and would have been in position to attack, but they were disrupted. Is that the word? Disrupted? Yes, disrupted. And I don't think I would have gone in with an attack anyway, just because, they've already lost a step. So for them to attack that lot looks like a pretty forlorn hope to me. And we've got rather beefier forces involved here. And certainly coming in here, we've got a real punch coming in here with, yes, we've got a weak armoured unit, but we've got 3 strong infantry units. This one here being, as you see, having value of 7, so they're particularly strong. Okay. And let's see what else has happened. Now that we've passed turn 4, we're now checking for German incoming artillery fire. We haven't had any yet. Okay, and bits of the beach are being cleared, as we can see. You only clear those hexes that have not had matching colour in the fire sector cards. So I think on the second turn, which is the first turn that was available, 4 hexes got cleared. But since then, it's been 1 hex for each division each turn. So it's a slow process. But it doesn't actually affect things at the moment, because at low tide, which is what we're at right now, the obstacles are visible, so they don't make any difference. But as soon as we then get up to mid-tide, it will make a difference as to whether the hex is cleared. And there will be a possibility of things exploding as they go into the hex or go through the hex. Right. Which, if I remember correctly, of course, the other game I played in this series was D-Day at Peleliu. And as I remember in that one, I don't think there were any tide rules like that with a changing water level. I don't believe so. But anyway, so interesting differences here. All going very smoothly, and we shall press on. And here we are as we begin turn 7, which is 0745 hours, or as many of us would say, 7:45 in the morning. And let's see, interesting developments, as we can see. The US forces are definitely, coming ashore. And of course, now in the 7th turn, what happens is the tide is coming in. So we will be at mid-tide. And as we can see, if we come down here, for example, you can see the word mid there. So this blue line across here is showing where the mid-tide level is. And unfortunately, for a couple of the tank units, the American commander was not able to get things organized to the point where they were up to the mid-tide line. So that means that this unit here is already depleted armored unit here, and also this armored unit here are going to be lost because they're to the seaward side of the mid-tide line. So they're going to be underwater. There simply weren't enough actions to be able to get them forward and out of danger from the incoming tide. Let's see, in other developments, yes, the losses have continued to mount, and we can now see that we have 2 units in here in the 1st Division's infantry losses, and if there are 8 units in there by turn 16, that's a catastrophic loss, and the engagement is over, and the Allies have lost, the US has lost. So we've got 2 there. We can only afford to have another 5 before turn 16. If we have another 6, we've lost. Same thing goes over here, but we have no units in there yet. So, and of course, when this means that basically half the unit has been lost, and we can see that when that happens, let's see, where would the other ones be? Let's use the tweezers for that. Yeah, there's the other one. So that unit is at half strength, and that unit is also at half strength. A lot of fire obviously coming from the Widerstandsnesten. It is Nesten, ending with an N, plural. I'm sure that was important to everybody. We can see also that various parts of the beach are being cleared, but it's a slow process, because if that part of the beach has been in the sights of German units that have been firing on that turn, then you don't get to clear that section. So yes, there's a lot of beach down here which is not clear. Let's see, what else do we have? Right, so sticking with the eastern sector, remember the map is, well, upside down, so to speak. South's at the top. But dealing with the eastern sector, which is the leftmost sector, we can see that finally the US forces here, we've got 2 infantry units, and we also have an armored unit, and they here were able to eliminate the German units at Widerstandsnest 65 Nord, which is right here, and there is no advance after combat, so they've eliminated them, and there's nobody home now. Let's see, we had that. Also, we had down here, and then we move over to here, the western sector, and the same thing has happened here. This was being attacked from fully 3 hexes here, which is a good way to attack if you can pull it off. They've also got a hero down there as well. And they've even also got this unit here of heavy infantry, which, because they have a range of 2, and because they're adjacent to a unit that's attacking, they can be involved in the attack too. So there are massive forces available for that attack there, and the German forces were but slight. I think they had a strength of 1, and there was a depth marker with a strength of 1 as well, or something along those lines. One of them, I can't remember which one it was. It was probably this one here, I think it was. Through the event card, one of the lucky turns that the US got was they got a naval gunfire counter, which is one of these delightful chaps here. This chappy here, which, as we can see, has a strength of 9 and unlimited range. That's what the U means. And so if you've got a radio, which we had here, so they were able to call it in and have an attack on these diese Soldaten, which were here. And they were stacked, there were 2 of them, so there's a depth marker underneath. And basically what the naval gunfire will do in that situation is it will disrupt the top one, and it will eliminate the depth marker underneath. So it was an easy business for these chaps to eliminate the chaps that were the Soldaten that were there. Let's see, what else do we have? Yes, the big thing that's happening down here, of course, causing quite a stir, is the arrival of General Kota. So he's there, and then there's also an HQ unit with artillery is here, and this has enabled units near them, as we might imagine, if they're in the same hex or if they're in an adjacent hex, units get a free action. So a lot of units were able to come ashore because of the presence of the HQ, or get moving, I should say. They were already ashore because of the presence of the HQ and the general. And other movement forward has gone on. Sometimes, obviously, it's got to be done in the face of determined fire or intense fire from the enemy, but they had to move forward into, for example, situations like these where they're at the mid-tide line now, and before they were in the low tide area, which would have meant that they would have been drowned, basically, so they had to move forward regardless. So they've moved forward. So yes, that armoured unit there is going to be lost, just like that armoured unit down here. Meantime, the Rangers, got more Rangers coming in here. And the Rangers that were over here that landed right at the beginning, they've finally managed to get up the cliff because they were getting a lot of suppression coming in from here. But they finally managed to get up the cliff. They've completely reassembled themselves now and are ready to press forward. Now that they don't have a lot of strength because they've only got 3 strength points, so that's not much to be taking on a Widerstandsnest. It's not impossible because looking across from here to here, there is no terrain obstacle. So therefore, I mean, it could be that the unit on top has a strength of 1, and the depth marker underneath might have a strength of 1. So it could be that even with 3 points there, they have a greater strength than the defending units, but it's not great odds for attacking at all. So problem is, if they just stay where they are, if they choose not to attack and instead they just stay where they are, then they are in steady fire. That's what that symbol means there, steady fire from the blue Widerstandsnest here, and it's got 2 units there, so they can only fire a given unit once. That's true. Yes, if they're if their color came up and they also had, and the card also had the triangle symbol, then that would mean that this unit, would be flipped over to suffer a loss. So not a great idea to just sit around waiting there. I suppose they could alternatively, I haven't looked at this in any great detail, or rather the American commander hasn't looked at it in any great detail, because the other thing that could happen, of course, I mean, just looking at, trying to think of it as sort of think of it like a normal war game. Obviously they could move to here, which would get them out of the line of fire from Widerstandsnest. Hang on a second, get the right instrument. 73. They could move to there. They could hop over the hedge and move to here, which puts them in intensive fire from here, but there's nobody home there, so that's all right. Same thing here. So they could go there and shelter, and then when they were ready, attack that way. I'm not sure what sort of terrain effect there would be in combat from attacking over the that is bocage, I assume. Looks like it is. I'm not sure, so I'll have to look that up. Let's see. Right, and beyond that, well, I mean, isn't that enough? So that's what's going on. And we now press on to turn 7 with the mid-tide. And here we are at the start of turn 8, which is 0800 hours, 8 o'clock in the morning, June 6th, 1944. And let's see, we've had further losses, not surprisingly really, for the 1st Infantry Division. They've now got 3 units in this box. If they get 8, as explained before, it's the end of the engagement. The US commander has lost. Still nothing in the 29th Division box there, so the casualties have been heavier on this side than on this side. We've got lots of we've made progress. Okay, so we've got I can't remember how much progress we'd made last turn, so excuse me if I repeat anything, but we've got these guys have managed to get across the seawall here in the shingle and have occupied the northern section of that Widerstandsnest there. Let's see, other important things. We've got over here, we've got the HQ in play now, which is, of course, helping out substantially. We have, let's see, down here in the western sector, the northern section of Widerstandsnest 68 Süd. Nord, which is, well, yeah, Nord is there, Süd is here, and so this has been overrun now. Got a couple of heroes there as well, which helps, and we've also cleared Widerstandsnest 66 Nord, which is here. Okay, looking forward to pressing forward there. And of course, the marvelous thing about this is once this starts happening, it means that, for example, this is an orange Widerstandsnest, and it means, of course, now in all these orange intensive fire or any kind of fire locations, of course, you now don't have to worry about them until you come to the next orange one, which is back here. But you've actually got ones that you can say, well, that's an intensive fire location, or rather that one, let's say that one there is intensive fire, but I don't have to worry about that in the orange department because I've overrun it or cleared it. Then we've got a lot of nice disruptions have been set up for the next turn, which, of course, the way that works is it means that now on the next turn, before the US moves, the Germans will fire, but they can only fire if they're not disrupted. So it means there'll be no fire from here, from here, from here, and from here. And good work was done there. There was a tank unit down there that pulled off the unlikely against that Widerstandsnest. And then this very heavy self-propelled artillery unit here was able to engage this Widerstandsnest here, and got top results, eliminated a depth marker, and then disrupted the top counter. So that was splendid. Because then following that, of course, it meant that units could safely move up to here because they know on the next turn that unit will not be firing at them. So they were able to go forward to there. But yes, the US commander has to be careful, because when you've got units, of course, that have been flipped over to half strength, that have lost a step, I should say. So you've got typically it'd be infantry units that are showing a 4 in their strength, like this one here, that one there, that one there, that one there, for example, or a 2 there, I think. It means that if they're hit again, of course, they will lose another step, which will mean that their counter will end up here. And as I've said before, you can only have 4 more in there safely before the engagement is lost. And we're about to start turn number 8, so it means there are 9 turns left to play. So the US commander really has to be careful about putting these units into these damaged units into either intensive or steady fire. Remember, solid dot means intensive. This circle with half and half, as it were, means steady fire. Because in either one of those locations, it means you run the risk that the unit could lose half a step. And so the commander, obviously, the battle has to be won. So, people have to push forward. And as we all know from the books and from the movies, if you stay on the beach, you'll die. So you might as well go inland. So that's the idea. You've got to press forward. But, as I say, it means, the thing that occurred to me is it means that even moving them into a location that has steady fire, if it's a unit that has already lost a step, it means you'd better be doing it advisedly. You better be doing it with a very calculated risk, because we can't lose too many more of those. Let's see what else. The Rangers have finally managed to get, these are in fact, there's a difference. This is not bocage. Bocage is something like this, where you've got, it's within the hex is the easiest way to identify it. It's hedgerows, as it were, that are within the hex. But here, you've just got them on the border of the hex. And if it's just on the border, it means it's just a sort of, it's not a particular obstacle. So therefore, it has no defensive value if the Allies were to attack, or the US were to attack this way. That hedge there is nothing to worry about. On the other hand, if they were attacking across bocage, it would double the defender. Okay. And then down here, we've got another Ranger unit. The Rangers were badly mauled by fire when they came ashore here. We've got another Ranger unit here, which is now setting itself up to climb the cliff. They have got a hero here, but unfortunately their strength, I believe, is only, what is it? It's something like 2 or 3. 2, yes, which is not a good place to be starting from when attacking a Widerstandsnest, which has 2 counters there. So it means that the enemy is worth at least 2. So the ability to double them is basically out of the question. Now, if you could get support somehow, then you might be onto a winner, but that looks like it could be a long way off. Down here, of course, we also have very useful things have been done by the HQ unit here. And so HQ there providing some helpful command structure there. Basically, it means that the units underneath it and adjacent to it get free actions, okay? And then down here we have General Kota with the same thing. So right now he can affect the next turn movement or actions done by those units there, and those units, and those units, and those units, because they're adjacent to him, okay? Then later on in the game, you will have expanding HQ ranges, which you will track using this device here. But I'm pretty sure that's when we get into this sort of the second half of the complexity of the game, when we reach turn 16, I believe it is, and beyond. I remember doing that in D-Day at Palalio, and it was pretty straightforward. But it basically sort of meant once you get into the later stages of the game, you can establish an HQ, sort of specific location, and then the radius of command will sort of slowly expand outward from that, and that's very useful. But it is a slow process. Okay, so in terms of victory points, well, the US they've cleared out some Widerstandsnest, but I think I'm not going into detail because I need to reread it. But I think there was something about the locations having to be out of not in the line of fire of any undisrupted German units. So, for example, that would not apply, for example, to this hex here, which is clearly within the line of fire of that one there. This one here, undisrupted German units, that one's disrupted, so for the time being, that one would count as viable unless, let's see, who can fire into there? No, it's only red that can fire into there, okay. So that would count, unless the Germans being adjacent would nullify it. I don't know. So clearly I'm going to look all this stuff up. But yeah, they are nibbling away and starting to get a hold of locations that actually do contribute towards victory. And then beyond that, of course, one of the big things is the possession of the draws. So there's the draw here for E3, the draw here for E1, the draw here, D3. I think you have to capture all the hexes, all the sort of light-coloured draw hexes to qualify as to get the victory points. And then this little one down here. I seem to recall from the Stephen Ambrose book that this one down here, because there's I'm not sure how you would say that, but Colleville-sur-Mer, pretty sure that the US soldiers call that like the Colville Draw. So would have been nice to have the actual name on there. I mean, not that it's necessarily the official name, but I'm just splitting hairs now. Anyway, it's all been thoroughly enjoyable, very exciting, and a very bloody business for the First Division, as we can see. And yeah, the 29th seem to have got off rather lightly so far. Well, light-ish. Well, I mean, I say here's to it. And here we are at the beginning of turn 10, 8:30 a.m. 8:30 hours on the 6th of June, 1944. And we see the appearance of these strange circular red wooden markers, which I've picked up recently. Jolly handy chaps to have around. And basically I'm using them now to mark Widerstandsnesten, which have been cleared. They only count as victory points if they are not in the line of fire of undisrupted German units. So that's certainly not the case in almost every example. Perhaps, yeah, well, some of them might be, but anyway, let's not get into that. So it's just a handy way of me keeping track of how much progress is being made. Now, sharp-eyed observers may have noticed, sadly, that in the last video segment, which I believe began on turn 8, it may have been observed that I had made a mistake. And hopefully we can just sort of press on. Basically, what I did was the guys that were scheduled to arrive on turn 7 basically sort of skipped a turn in getting ashore. They not only came into here, the sort of landing boxes, but they also landed in the same turn. So all the forces scheduled for turn 7 ended up in play one turn ahead of when they should have. They should have been placed on the board in turn 7 and then landed on turn 8. Instead, they landed on turn 7. I just lost track of what I was doing, evidently. So this had a modest effect in various locations. So what I did was I decided that those forces that were due to arrive on turn 8, which are also very powerful forces. So, for example, let's see, do we have... Is it easy enough to show them? Yes, there we go. If we do that sort of thing. We've got these, they're DUKW duck forces they're arriving on turn 8. So that's this unit, and also down there, that 9 unit down there, and this unit here. And what I did was I put them on the board, but didn't allow them to land when they should have landed. So they're landing one turn late. So that in doing that, I'm trying to sort of even things up from what happened with the forces on turn 7 arriving effectively one turn too early. Right. So, let's just put that behind us. That's made a mistake, and we sort of press on from there. So, what's been going on? Well, a big blow was suffered over here by the chaps with the 1st Division, as if they needed another blow, because their HQ was hit by incoming fire, and when this happens, the HQ gets taken off the board and put into the sequence over there to come on 2 turns later. And that's what's happening. They'll actually, in this turn now, they'll be put into the landing boxes here, so they won't be on the board in this turn, and then on turn 11 they'll be back in play. So that was a big loss there, that or a setback, as it were, because of course it slowed everything down again. It meant you didn't have an HQ to move units around, and so things have been moving pretty slowly over in this sector. Also, the commander over here has tried to be a bit more conservative in terms of pushing forward and exposing units that have already lost a step. Not much progress has been made on that. Like here, for example, we've got a pretty bad situation here where we have these 2 units up front, which unfortunately are both triangles, and they're in steady fireboxes. So God help us if green comes up, because if it does, that means that both of those units, there are 2, there's a depth marker there, so there are 2 units there. So green comes up in this sector, both those units will be lost, which is bad. The problem is there aren't very many places they can go. They're surrounded by green dots. So, yeah, anyway. Down here, however, some progress has been made. We've got a hero has appeared and has been pressing forward, has pressed forward into draw E1 here, marched right in between those 2 units there, and is sitting in a nice safe location there. Can't be fired on in that location there. Both a lot of it has been due to disruption of units that has been caused by barrages and from friendly tanks that have done. They've been quite lucky, it seems to me. They've done very well with the disruption of the enemy there. Then let's see, not much else going on there. Then in other news, down here we've got a lot of bluffs going on. So that's the dotted brown line, which I hadn't really paid very much close attention to, and should have, because the US forces walked right up to the bluff, only to find out at that point that actually you can't attack across it. You can fire up it, but with a barrage, but you can't attack across it. So what they have to do is they have to climb the bluff, go around the unit, as it were, they want to attack, climb the bluff, and then attack the unit once they've climbed the bluff. Okay. This unit here is bravely walking up the draw itself, which is, it has limited exposure to the enemy, but at least they have a hero with them, and we'll see what happens there. Then more units climbing here. There was a gap there. That was merely a slope, so that HQ unit and infantry were able to go up there. These chaps have climbed up here, had a climb marker, and then had the climb marker removed. So they're fully established now on the high ground. More climbing going on here, as we can see. One thing that has to be borne in mind is that the units that are not infantry or HQ or generals can't get off the beach. They can't cross the seawall, they can't cross the shingles, so any tanks down here, artillery, this sort of thing, they're going to start getting left behind. So if we've got them in command of a general, obviously, then like in this situation here, they're in command of the general, or they're under the command of the general here, so they could still fire, but they can't go forward until we get to, I think, once we get to the second half of the battle, once we get to turn 17, I think perhaps at that point, I haven't even read the rules, but all I got in the rules, it said up until turn 16, they can't leave the beach. So, well, that's where they are. All right, more tanks down here have been causing disruption through their bombarding of enemy positions. So, good progress is made there. They're disrupted. They've been disrupted, and then they've been undisrupted, and then they've been disrupted again by more fire. So, things do change, but the tanks are managing to get the enemy to keep their heads down to a fairly decent extent. Down here, we had the Rangers that were the other Ranger unit that was going up the cliff here. Unfortunately, they were eliminated. These guys have moved into this position here where they're safe. These guys are going to be attempting to go up the cliff here. Okay, let's say these guys here were spent an entire action on that, if you can believe that. Did them a big favor. They were here. That's right, they were there, which is steady fire from here, risk. And of course, that means if they'd been hit, they would have been a loss, which would have... a bit of a mistake there. Well, I would have lost the unit, that's true, but it would have not have ended up in here because it's already in there. If that counter gets lost, you simply take it off. Right, so, yes, bit of a mistake there, but, well, I mean, it got them out of harm's way, so they'll be preserved, but it wasn't necessary using the logic that because I was worried about them ending up in here, which is something they are not going to do. Anyway, what else have we had? Any exciting other things? We've had a bit of artillery fire. We had a bit of GI initiative where both sectors got one extra free action, so they had 3 actions instead of 2. Let's see, we've never yet had an explosion on the obstacles. Okay. And there was one thing I found in the rules. I'm not sure if things would have ended up differently, but this was something that could potentially might have been more damaging to the Allies than it should have been, which was I noticed in the rules that if you recall, there was a tank unit here in the eastern sector, and also in the western sector there was one that was on the beach when I hadn't been paying close enough attention to the tide, and when the tide changed to mid-tide, it meant that both of those units were lost because they were underwater. But what I didn't notice was that I actually had until the end of the turn to try and get them forward to the mid-tide marker, and I just wrote them off immediately at the beginning of the turn. So had I spent an action on each one of those units, they would still be in play. Anyway, so worth noting there, you've got until the end of the turn to do that. The other thing I noted too in the rules, I just want to mention it now in case I had said something earlier that contradicted this, which is that at low tide, the engineers, which is sort of abstract at this point, they're just factored in, they can clear the obstacles from 2 hexes when the tide is at low tide. Once the tide changes to mid-tide, they can only clear 1 hex per turn, and then when it goes to high tide, I believe they can't clear anything. Right. Anyway, that's enough of that. It's still very, very enjoyable. I'm thoroughly enjoying the game. Let's see, so we're at turn 10, so we're over halfway through the first phase of the game, the clearing the beaches, as it were, and all good stuff. So let's press on. And here we are as we're about to start turn 11, which is 0845 hours on 6th of June, 1944. And big thing that happened in the last turn was that the units, which I had delayed for a turn to try and compensate the balance of play, I delayed for one turn, so they should have appeared in the beach landing boxes in turn 8 and then landed on turn 9, and I delayed them. No, anyway, significantly, there were both divisions had 2 duck units, DUKW units. 2 of those had a strength of 9 and 2 of them had a strength of 3, so they certainly packed a punch, and they were all eliminated. The landing check card for both the eastern sector and the western sector were very unkind to the duck units, and they all went to the bottom. So that was a bit of a blow. In other news, I think also some units were... Would that have been that turn? Some units were also delayed, I think. So at least they weren't sunk, but they were delayed. So, for example, up here, we've got units there which they went into beach landing boxes in turn 9, and there they are about to come into beach landing boxes on turn 13. So serious delay of those units. Okay. Beyond that, I think I don't think there were sort of dreadful losses or anything like that in the meantime. The American forces seem to be making pretty good progress, and the key thing, of course, is to be able to have several of the German positions. As we can see now, there are 5 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I haven't explained what I'm talking about. They are disrupted. So, of course, if they're disrupted, it means they can't fire now in the German fire phase. They may become undisrupted at the end of it, but we shall see. But, of course, it means that if they're disrupted, then the American units can move into an adjacent hex and set themselves up for being able to attack them now in this turn. And so we've got a hero here, for example. They're going to be having a go at those. Got 2 stacks here that could attack that lot there. No one in position to attack them at the moment, as we can see. We've got a headquarters stack has made it up the slope here and is pressing forward. That does mean, yes, it does mean that you've got all these units back here which have been left behind by the headquarters, but it seemed the right thing to do. And also, of course, with the as I keep going on and on about the whole idea of if you've got units like this that have lost a step, you don't want them to lose another step because they'll end up in here. Although, of course, as we can see with the 29th Infantry, they've only got 1 in that position at the moment, so they can be rather more aggressive in their deployment than over here, where we've already got 4 in the box. Okay, General Kota is moving forward. Got units up here now that can attack these units here. These chaps here can attack them or them. These chaps here can attack them. They can't because they're at the bottom of a bluff. They can't attack up the bluff. Let's see. I think, yeah, those chaps there just climbed up the bluff. So on their next turn, on this turn now, the climb marker will come off. That's all they're allowed to do. But they will be in position. That's right. That's true. They won't be able to. No, they won't be able to attack. So that means that let's hope they can keep these 2 disrupted, or someone can keep these 2 disrupted. We've got tanks here which can try to participate in that. Yes. And then let's see. The other thing I did was thinking, and just basic. Of course, there have been articles written about this, I'm sure, and there's plenty on Board Game Geek. But just because it's, of course, with this, you're drawing cards all the time and you're looking at the colors and the symbols. But what does it map out to in actual just simple terms of probability? Because we're normally, of course, we're looking at a combat results table and we're rolling dice. So let's just have a pause for thought about that. Well, if we start from the assumption, which may or may not be correct, that the colors, the German fire colors on the German fire cards are evenly distributed. If we assume that, let's just take a card that has already been spent and pop it up there to take a look at it. Right, so the three colors there, purple, green, brown. Let's assume that they're evenly distributed. Well, there are 6 colors in this game, and that means that if 3 of them come up on a card, it means there's a 50-50 chance, a 1 in 2 chance, that the color in question, if you're, let's say you're sitting in a situation, let's say you're sitting, let's pick a relevant place. Okay, so here, right, they're undisrupted, so they could fire with intense fire here, for example. Okay, so that means if you're there, there's a 50-50 chance that that color will come up. So that's like rolling 1, 2, 3 as opposed to 4, 5, 6. Right. So we got that far. Now, if you're there, then the symbol on your counter, this symbol here, we'll just deal with infantry, otherwise it'll start to get complicated if we start talking about armor and artillery and all that sort of thing. So just looking at infantry. If you're in intensive fire, then the symbol on the counter that you've got there makes no difference. And so it will cause a step reduction on whoever's here, regardless of their symbol. Right. So that means if you're there, there's a 50-50 chance that you will lose a step if you're of an infantry type. Okay. I suppose there is one more complexity there, that's true, which is to say this business of it being 1 or 2, there's 2 there, 1 there, and 2 there. 2 means it requires there to be 2 German counters for them to be able to fire. So we've got 2 here, for example. You can see that's actually a stack, right? Okay. Yeah, so of course that means that when you're going into the proximity of the enemy, of course you're going to be looking at, as it makes sense, you should be looking at, is there 1 there or is there a stack there? Because, well, I don't know. I mean, approximately, I suppose it would become roughly, I don't know what the distribution of the stacks versus the symbols are, but I suppose in a sort of rough idea, we might assume that it's something like about 50-50. So we might assume that if there is 1 there, it's something like about 50% less probable to be able to shoot you than if there is 2 there. So obviously you want to avoid the 2s if you can. Then, of course, we have the symbol coming in, and the symbol comes in if you're in a position like this here, where they've got steady fire. That's that symbol there. This has steady fire into there, and to score a hit on you, it's going to need to match your symbol as well. Well, there are 3 symbols, which is to say the circle, the diamond, and the triangle. So that's 1 in 3. So therefore, to get that, you got 50-50 chance that the right color will come up in the first place, and then you got a 1 in 3 chance that the right symbol would come up. So that means that ignoring the business of is there 1 or 2 stacked in here and the 1 or 2 over here, ignoring that would actually mean that there's a 1 in 6 chance that in the next turn that unit there would suffer a step loss, because it would have to match the symbol, which is 1 in 3, and it would have to match the color, which is 1 in 6. So, sorry, it would have to match the color, which is 50-50. I'm sorry. Yeah, so that gives you 1 in 6 in the end. So it's as if you were rolling dice, and let's say you had to roll a 6 to score a hit. That would be the equivalent of that. Right. So, I'm sure I'll get lots of comments pointing out the massive mistakes I've just made in what I just said. But that's what I'm going with for the time being. Right, so pressing on beyond that, what, of course, the American commander has to be thinking about, especially right now, we're on turn 11. So, we've got, in the first half of the game now, we've got 6 turns, 11 through 16, by which we have to achieve, without having a catastrophic loss in either one of these departments, we have to achieve 19 victory points to win that half of the game. And so far, if these Widerstandsnesten were clear of the influence of the enemy, that is to say, and they were in communication of the Allies, I believe it is. They have to be both, I think, as I can remember. So it means that the Germans cannot fire into the hexes. So, for example, here, let's see. It's just green, so we'd have to clear them out of there, and then that hex would count, because nobody else can fire into it. Here, this one, let's see, it's just red firing into there. So if we cleared them out of there, then that hex would count, for example. And each one of those cleared Widerstandsnesten would be worth 1 victory point. So at the moment, we'd have 5, and we need 19, so we've got quite a way to go. The big way to get points is to we also get a point if we capture and do the same thing, keep it out of enemy line of fire, to reinforcement, as near as I can remember, reinforcement locations. So that would be like this chap here, for example. I mean, if we captured it and it wasn't in line of fire, which it is right now, they could fire at it, for example. So we'd have to capture that and clear them out as well. The other big place then that the victory points come from are the draws, and to capture a draw, you have to control all of its hexagons. So like the Colville draw over here has got quite a lot of hexagons, as we can see. It's this pale background, so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in there. This is a particularly juicy one. No, it isn't. No, which one? That one's particularly juicy because it's only got 2 hexes in it. But that right there would be worth 5 points. So strategically, that would have been a good one to take. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but we can have a go. Over here, what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hexes in there. And then Saint-Laurent-sur-Mer. Over here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in there. Yeah, so we're going to press on. Okay, let's get on with it. And here's the situation that presents itself as we prepare to play turn 12, which is 0900 hours, 6th of June, 1944. And let's see what happened in the previous turn. Well, as we can see from the dots, the red dots, I think we had 5 before, and now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 3 more. So again, they don't count as victory points until we clear them of German units that can fire into them. But making progress. So yes, progress is made up here. We had a hero that was fell bravely in action, and that is now an inspired unit. Let's see, what else did we have? Well, we're just generally sort of making progress. I don't think there are any forces landed on that turn. I think it was probably the first time that nobody landed. So good progress is being made. There were several combats, all of which went well. And so we can see that the Widerstandsnesten are falling to aggressive American action. And, we're getting the chaps forward. Or should I say the guys? And then the other thing that occurred to the commander was that General Cota down here, we want to have him of course, either in the same hex or adjacent to friendly forces to be able to command them. And one thing that he would like to be able to do is to be able to use these chaps here, artillery units and tanks, to be able to support an attack on this sort of thing down here. Also, let's see, the tank, it's only a tank, but it can barrage that unit, so there is a chance there. And it's only sporadic fire here, so the chances of that unit causing any damage on that are extremely limited. And so the idea would be to try to work our way down here with these chaps in support, commanded by General Kota, as the infantry move forward and attempt to sort of knock out these Widerstandsnesten, and also, of course, capture draw D1, which is the real cherry there, because it's a draw which is worth 5 points, but it's only 2 hexes. Let's see, I don't think we had massive losses that turn. No, we didn't. We did have some losses down here, but yes, so good progress being made there, and we're ready to play turn 12.